Hello, everyone. Isn't it a strange time? You don't see me when it's dark outside. It's 6 p.m. at Eastern Standard Time. And probably you on the West Coast are like, it's only 3. What's our problem? I have lots of problems. And daylight savings time is one of them. Right? I'm like, I kind of would like wrestle someone. If I could wrestle someone and have it stop, I would do that in a public forum. So let's see where that goes, how much I'm going to regret saying that publicly. But I think I have some ladies who would back me up on it too. Obviously, Angela Fischetti, who we're so excited to have today. So you guys know that we've been trying to do more movement lives where, since I am not a movement person, I'm a person who needs to move. And by the way, I will toot my own horn. I did my 3-mile walk today, even though I didn't want to. So I'm giving myself a little gold star right here. And if you've done anything for yourself, that's kind, if you've drank enough water, if you've managed to eat at least one meal of healthy food, because the mood is heavy for many of us, not for all of us, but for many of us. And if you're in that heavy, it's hard to do things, like it's also time for seasonal affective disorder. That could be kicking in for some of you. The irony that I'm in 77-degree weather today, which is not where it's supposed to be here. And I was talking to my friend in Oregon, and she's like, it's 44 and I have a foot of snow. So there's very much a disconnect. So some of you may feel a little seasonal affective disorder. I'm missing all the cozy. Like I want to have my cozy clothes on and things. And so one of the things that Angela and I were talking about right before we started this was how exercise, and maybe exercise, again, I'm trying not to use the naughty word, but movement, because sometimes exercise isn't a naughty word, but I think it can have some bad connotations for people. It makes me think of PE. I hated PE. I was not, right? Physical education, and I'm like, how do I get out of this? But the running, actually, it's funny. The running in junior high changed me a lot for the better. But like, usually it's about grading and competition, and that's why I choose to use movement more than exercise, because movement, I'm moving right now. You're probably judging me, and that's okay, but you're still not grading me, right? And with heaviness or stress or worry, because it's also holiday time. And especially if you're trying to eat a healthy diet, you've got Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the things that are going to happen possibly in your office. And so the one thing you can control when there's all these things you can't control around you is how good you are to yourself and how well you take care of yourself. And I'm working very hard on that. And so I'm bringing you along with me if you want to or not. No, and what I love about Angela, and you guys know, she's in our community. She shows up to all these lives and chats with you. She's from Boomer and Beyond Wellness, and she really breaks things down just into these very easy to take in bites and gives you all this great information. So Angela, I'm going to pass it on to you. Let you maybe put your spin on how movement can really help some of this stuff and introduce yourself properly.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy. I appreciate it. And I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm not afraid of the word exercise, but I do get a lot of the connotations around it. And how for some people, perhaps they've gotten injured in the past from doing exercise, right? I look at exercise as exalting, and it really has helped me in my health journey, and in particular with my wellness journey and in my thought processes and in my thinking, because especially during stressful times, and it might be times of sadness, it might be times of irritation, it might be times that you're just downright angry, right? I tend to turn to either strength training or to yoga. And it's interesting because they're very much on the opposite ends of the spectrum, but I allow for that because I'm a human and my mind goes from opposite ends of the spectrum. But the reason why I use physical movement, but purposeful movement, all right, has to do with my intent behind that movement, is to help me be able to just de-stress, calm the mind, right? And that, sort of running and all that monkey chatter and stuff, calm it all down. And by the time I'm done with maybe the strength training routine or maybe the yoga routine, the fight is out of me. The anxiety has lifted, even if it's for a little while. And I just find that the more I can go into my body to express my emotions and release them through physical movement, purposeful movement, the more I reap the rewards of the exercise, of that movement. So this was just something Kathy and I were chatting about before, and I just wanted to share with you my perspective on it. So Kathy, should I go into my presentation now?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So Kathy and I came up with the idea, folks, because it's now going into holiday time, and oftentimes people are like, how am I going to do that exercise? How am I going to fit in that purposeful movement, right? And I don't have time to go to the gym. There's just so much going on. So wherever you are, you have a gym. You can turn your space, you can turn outdoors into something for movement and activity. Now, one of the things I've done and still do is I work with bands and tubes, and I will take them with me on an airplane. And I've gone to Barcelona with my equipment. Meanwhile, this stuff takes up absolutely very little room in your luggage, in your carry-on, in a backpack. And I've taken them with me to see my family in Texas because no, I don't. I'm sometimes away for a very short period of time. I don't want to go to a gym. I don't want to drive. It's just too much time. But right there and then, I can create my own home gym with some simple bands and tubes. Now, I am going to work with a lot of different bands and tubes today. You don't need all of them. I'm just showing you all the different types that exist, and whatever resonates for you is what you can consider getting for yourselves. So what we're going to do here today is a portable workout, and it's technically really a workout on the go for the holidays. It'll be a total body workout with supersets. Now, supersets is when we work 2 different exercises back to back without any sets. So without any rest, I should say. So now the accessories we will be using. I'll be using a sticky yoga mat. I'll also be using a Fitball. It's also known, there's also a Pilates 9-inch ball. This is a squeegee ball, and you might be saying, but why am I going to take a ball on board a train? Let me tell you about these little these squeezable, non-burstable balls. You easily unplug them. They come literally with a straw. You blow them up by mouth. You do not need a pump. So you can deflate it and then inflate it wherever you are. I'll be using a couple of different kinds of exercise or resistance tubes, they're called. Now, I want to caution you when it comes to working with exercise tubing, you want to be very aware of the different type of handles. Because if you have any hand issues like Dupuytren's contracture, arthritic hands, or maybe trigger finger, whatever, you want to look for soft foam handles because they also have hardbound handles. Now, this one is preset. I have another exercise tube I'm going to be using, and you'll see it when I do the exercise, which has clip-on extender handles. So I am going to suggest to those of you 5'6" and above to get the resistance exercise tubes with the clip-on handles as a backup for certain exercises. Then we have something called, well, it's called a lot of different things. A TheraBand, a Dynaband. It's also known as an exercise resistance band. And whenever you work with this type of band or even an exercise loop, now I have an additional handle that I clipped on, okay? The loops don't come with these handles, but either one, whenever I work with them, and I'm going to stop now and give you my tips on how to extend the shelf life of exercise bands and loops. So first off, you always want to hold it up to the light. And what I'm doing is scanning it, making sure I don't have a little pinhole. Now, if you notice a pinhole, if it's near the end of the band with a nice sharp scissor or a paper cutter, you want to evenly and neatly cut it right there. However, if it's further up and you just want to toss that thing, because you never want to work with a band or tube near your face because it could snap. Been there, did that, folks. It hurts, okay? Now, a couple of other tips. When you work with the band, you want to make sure you store them in, well, I use like really old cosmetic bags and those zippered pouches and stuff, and I use them, I recycle them. And you could use a Ziploc bag. You want to put 1/4 of a teaspoon of non-GMO cornstarch. And some people use baking powder, but I would avoid baking soda, all right? Anything gritty you would avoid. And you store these bands and these loops in that bag, and each time you go to use it, you shake it up, and when you open it up to remove the band, it's going to have a little sprinkle of the cornstarch. However, your bands will remain supple. Also, never store them in heat, and certainly not in the heat of the sun, because these things will crumble. And then you do not want to put these away. You don't want to store them knotted. So for some people, they knot their bands for certain exercises. Unknot them, otherwise they're never going to unknot again. And finally, to keep the shelf life going on these, make sure that you do not store this wet. So sometimes I'll sweat on these things, right? I got to air that out, let it dry out before you store it. Now, what we'll also be using today, I showed you the exercise loop. Then there's these little handles that you can get, because it can be a little harsh on the hands. And you'll see today that I am wearing exercise gloves on purpose. We also have something called a monster cord. It's also known as a pull-up resistance band. So it's called a monster cord for a reason. So all of this stuff folds right up into small bags, and you can just go anywhere, anytime. You can work indoors, outdoors. If you have a small space you'll be staying in, this works. So now, those are the accessories, but I have to let you know, we're going to go right now into the medical disclaimers and precautionary measures. And this is a very important part of the presentation, probably the most important part, because I will be discussing different chronic health concerns, as well as the modifications to be able to do the exercises. First off, folks, the mat and every single item I'm using here today, except the handles on those loops, all the bands, all the tubes, etc., the Fitball, they're all made out of latex. So if you have a latex allergy, please look for non-latex or latex-free. Now, if you have any knee flexion issues, that's issues with bending the knees, I'm going to take you to the wall here, because we're going to be doing squats and deadlifts. So coming to the wall, I want to suggest that you take this wall seat, either way it's called, and you want to make sure that your back is fully supported by the wall. The back of the head is touching the wall as well. Now you place your hands to the inside of the high hip bones, called the iliac crest. You line up with your knees down to your ankles. You want your ankles slightly forward of the knees. Now you get to control how high up or how low you'd like to go. You can slide up and down, or you can hold here statically. But I will tell you that there are a few other issues that if you have them, this wall sit is a great alternative. So if you have osteoporosis of the spine, if you have the postural deviation of hyperkyphosis, which is sort of that hunched appearance, if you've been told for any back spine issue not to bend down and pick up something, especially something of weight, well, squatting is going to put you into that forward flexion. Take it to the wall, folks. So that's 4 issues right there that can be benefited just by taking the work to the wall. Also, if you have carpal tunnel syndrome, I do notice that a lot of people, when they work with the exercise tubes, they hold those handles like this. Now, this is wrist extension. Doesn't matter the position of the arms or forearms, this is wrist extension. So you folks want to make sure that those wrists are absolutely straight. Also, if you have pinched nerve at the neck or rotator cuff muscle issues, which are kind of deep to your shoulders, we're going to be doing an exercise. I'm just going to come down onto my knee for the moment. I'm just going to show you something here. For now, once I have the tubes, I'm going to be standing. But we're going to be doing something called a military press, and it's also known as a shoulder press. But for those of you with pinched nerve or rotator cuff, and even those of you medicated or not for hypertension, you all may have been told, don't do anything overhead. So you're going to do this movement. You take a bent over movement, provided you don't have the spine flexion, right? If you do, you can do it upright. So you're going to do a bent over rear delt fly. And this will be quite safe for you folks with those issues instead of doing that military press. Also, if you are medicated or not for hypertension, have GERD or vertigo, I need you to avoid, it's a forward flexion of the cervical spine of the neck. That means don't do this. Don't drop your head down. Please keep your head absolutely level and or in a neutral position. Now, conversely, if you've ever had a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, or a stroke, I want you to avoid this movement of the cervical spine of the neck. Now, at one point near the end of the class, I will be teaching a back bend. It's a spine extension. So when I go back, now, for those of you with TIA stroke, I need you to keep your chin neutral as well. The rest of us, you can feel free to drop the head back into a hyperextension of the cervical spine. The neck is quite capable of doing this, so don't worry that you're going to cause a problem. However, TIA stroke, I would not suggest dropping that head back. Also, I'm just checking my notes here for you. Yes, if you have golfer's elbow or tennis elbow, that would be medial epicondylitis or lateral epicondylitis. You folks need to find out if any bicep tricep work is appropriate for you. I can't give you a suggestion only because the symptoms are quite unique with each individual. Even with an exercise, like we'll be doing something with a squat, but we'll be holding the tube in my hands and my elbows will be bent and it will be isometric contraction the whole time. So that might be inappropriate for those of you with medial or lateral epicondylitis. And I think, yeah, I got through them all. All right, now we already discussed how to prolong the life of the bands and the loops. So what are we going to do here today? Now we're going to do one set. We're going to do 8 exercises with one set of each exercise. Now a set is a group of 8 to 15 repetitions. We're going to do this vertically without any of the tubes, without any of external resistance. However, it is very important that you you add in your own sense of external resistance, right? You're going to slow it up, and you do so by thinking about this internally so you have control over the work. Then after the vertical approach, we'll be doing the 4 blocks of 2 exercises each. So that's what determines the supersets that we'll be doing. And just a couple of reminders. Always feel free to stop and rest whenever you need to. However, I'm not inviting you to quit. So just take a few moments, take a breath, and then rejoin the work, even if it's for one more repetition. And this is how you will get stronger. Also, you want to make sure you keep yourselves properly hydrated with water. I don't know about any other fluid other than plain water, because I follow the advice of Harvard Health Publishing, and they report on studies that are done with water and training. Having said this, if you have any kidney or bladder issues, you may have been advised by your medical doctor to not drink a lot of water. Please follow that advice. So the whole point of when you have any chronic concern, whether I mentioned it here or not, after you preview the video before participating, you're not sure, always make sure then you invite your medical healthcare practitioner to preview the video. Get that information, folks. So now, what are we going to do? We're going to teach you an athletic ready stance, because this is the position I'd like you to train in when you're standing. So we're going to begin here, much like I showed you up against the wall. So I'm going to place the hands to the inside of the high pelvic bone. Now be careful. You don't want to turn them in toward each other. You want them to point straight down. From here, I'm lining up to the knees, lining up to the ankles, toes in the same line as each other. Turning to the side, now particularly for the females, I do find that oftentimes when you're training, I notice this, that you start to tip the pelvis forward, and it's called an anterior pelvic tilt. We actually want to come into a subtle, gentle posterior pelvic tilt. It's also known as a pelvic tuck. So now we're going to begin with our first block. The first block we'll be doing is Fitball Squats with the Lat Pull Down. That's short for latissimus dorsi. Now, remember, any squat work, you need to go to the wall. That's fine. I'm not going to bring the ball into it right now, because I just want you to work on a basic squat with me. So lifting the toes inside the shoes. I'm going to actually stand on a little diagonal here for you. I'm standing in an athletic ready stance. Inhale, sit back into a chair. Exhale, come up. Take a nice little posterior pelvic tuck squeeze. It's a teeny tiny hip thrust. We continue like that. Now, I have the toes lifted inside the shoes so that I'm also training my shin muscles, which can benefit my gait, good for my balance, and very good for the knees as well. It also drives the work up from the heels, engaging that posterior extensor chain of the body, gluteals, hamstrings, and back erector muscles. Breath in and out through the nose. We're going to do one more. Inhale, exhale on the effort, pause at the peak of the contraction. Now, lat pull down, latissimus dorsi, the big swimmer's muscle. So you bring your arms up and overhead. Again, I want you to see the hands fully here. And I'm going to be holding a band. And I'm going to open it out and lift the chest up toward that imaginary band. And I'm just doing it on my knee for now, only because of seeing the hands. Now I'm going to look up, but TIA stroke, don't drop your head back, please. So I'm opening out wide and pulling. Exhale, pause. And so we're working with those scapulae, your shoulder blades, and We're working trapezius, latissimus dorsi, rhomboid muscles, posterior deltoid, biceps. The list goes on and on. One more here, open and release. Now I'm going to stand up. I tuck my back toes under. Let's show you that. Back toes under, hands on the thigh to push up to stand on up. The next block, we have deadlifts with narrow grip chest press. So I'm going to show you the difference between a squat, a basic squat, and a basic deadlift. So we know the squat, toes lifted inside the shoes. Inhale, sit back. Exhale, come up, pelvic tuck, squeeze. Now here's the difference. Deadlift, fingertips on front of the thighs, toes are lifted, knees are soft. I'm not sitting back. This is a hip hinge. So basically, I'm pulling that butt all the way out behind me. Pull it out. Now keep the chin up, please. Don't drop the head down, especially medicated or not, for hypertension, vertigo, or GERD. Inhale, exhale, pause at the peak of the contraction. This too has a slight hip thrust. And when I say slight, I mean it, because I see this go on a lot with the instructors. Boom! It's too much, folks. It's too much. Let's be kinder and gentler, but deeper with the work that way. And squeeze, pause. So I want you to be able to bend down, pick up something without getting hurt. Last one. And pause. So the next exercise is a narrow grip chest press. What is narrow grip? This is narrow grip, holding the hands so the palms face each other. Wide grip would be out here, but I'm going to hold it here. Now the band will technically be up and around my upper back and literally underneath my armpits. So I'm going to face you here and exhale, push. Now notice I am crisscrossing the wrists. Now I'll go on the diagonal a bit. So this helps us with pushing movements in life. Yes, when I moved less than a year ago, oh my goodness, there was an awful lot of pushing and pulling with the boxes. So I was able to push heavy boxes. Yes, hips are involved, of course, but also those front deltoids, the pectoral muscles of the chest, as well as your tricep muscles, the back of the upper arms. We're going to do a couple of more repetitions here. One more, and I want you to be able to push a heavy grocery cart without having to hang over it, all right? Now, for the third block, we have Romanian deadlifts. I don't make up these names. They come like that way from decades and decades. And we're going to do this with the military press, the shoulder press. So remember, that's the one where those of you who can't lift overhead, you're going to do the bent over rear delt fly. So for the Romanian deadlift, the difference between the basic deadlift that we just did, which is the hip hinge, right? And you're in an athletic ready stance. Well, we're going to go wider here for Romanian deadlift. I'm going to keep the fingertips right here in front of the thighs and slide down and up. My fingers are not leaving my body. Now, it is very important for a good, healthy aging process for females in particular to strength train their gluteal muscles. You know that many falls occur oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes because of weak glutes. So that's why you see me doing a lot of squats and deadlifts in my presentations, a lot of compound movements, working multiple large muscles and multiple joints simultaneously. Last one, inhale, exhale, pause. Notice I'm not whipping through the work just to get it over with. So now the military press, I'll take it down on the knee here for you. And exhale, push. And inhale, lower. So I want you to be able to reach up to a high shelf in your closet or the high shelf in your kitchen cabinet, put things of weight away. But however, I want you to be able to pull them down as well without them collapsing down onto you. So typically upper body strength is a little bit less in females. So that is something to emphasize, particularly the deltoid muscles of the shoulders. One more, exhale, push, and slowly release. Hands to the thigh to stand up. And for our final block. Now, Kathy, I created an exercise, okay? I like it because it ties in a lot of posterior deltoid, the back of the shoulders, right, to offset all of this stuff, but also to work the back of the upper arm. So it looks like this. I've got the elbows bent. Notice the hands are pretty much in the same line as the elbows. They're not over here. And I lift the elbows a little higher, and then I push. So I call this the tricep lift and push. Inhale up, exhale, push. And you want to pause at the peak of the contraction. It's right here. And let me tell you something. When you have weights in your hands, when you are using an exercise band, whoa, is this going to tie in a lot of core muscles. Now, I've got a little bit of a game I want to play with you folks. It's a true false statement. Core muscles are your abdominals. I'd love for people to type in TRF. And then if Kathy could let me know what people are typing in, if anything. 2 more. Pause. 1 more, because I'm not going to give the reveal until I hear somebody's answer. And release it down. Now, the next exercise. Yeah?
I'm looking at it. Oh, Apple says F.
She's correct.
Ann says F.
Yeah. Correct, ladies. I'm going to explain in a moment. I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to tell you. So now on this one, I don't want to stand that wide. So I have my elbows out wide. This is called an Arnold curl. Yes, it's named after the man, okay? And so we're going to curl the arms, pause, and release. I'm going to come a little bit closer. I'm going to squat down so you could see. Now, because I'm a little bit, my image is different here, so I'm going to look down. But you want to make sure you pause at the peak of the contraction. You're not flailing your elbows all over the place. Let me see here. There we go. Pause. And 1 more. Now, core muscles. Yes, they are abdominals. However, they're also pelvic floor muscles, hip adductors, inner thighs, quadriceps, and gluteals, and back erector muscles. So when I tell you that this exercise is going to tie in core, oh baby, it's going to tie in the core. So now we've done each of the exercises 1 time through. Let's move on right from the beginning with the 4 blocks of 2 exercises. This time we're tying in the tubes, etc. So this one is what I call a Fitball squat. So I'm going to take my fit ball. Now, whenever you work with any type of ball, make sure the plug is not hitting your skin. So we're going to put this between the thighs, not all the way up, a little closer down toward the knees. Then I'm going to place the exercise tube underneath the arches of my sneakers. I want to make sure it's even on both sides. Now, you might be wondering, why is she doing this with the ball? Because she wants you to work more muscles at one time, and therefore it's time efficient. So I'm going to bend on down, and we're going to squat here. Now we come up. So inhale, exhale, sit back into the chair. So by squeezing the ball, you're working more muscles. It's also a good approach if people have knee issues, particularly with the medial sides of the knees, the inner knees. Using the ball can be very helpful. It's a lot of work, but it feels great. So this is where you want to be careful. Carpal tunnel syndrome, how you hold the handle. Also golfers and tennis elbows, careful, got to find out if this is appropriate because of the isometric contraction at those biceps. One more. Exhale up, pelvic tuck, squeeze. Now careful, when you release, it can snap away from you. So control the release. The next exercise is the lat pull down. Let me put this here, and that won't roll away. Okay, so I'm gonna stay upright now. Taking a hold of my band. I'm gonna lean back a bit. Exhale, open, and slowly close. So it's big and it's wide. Got to be careful with the microphone. Careful of looking up at the ceiling. TIA stroke, head neutral. Now I'm going to face you. Just try to step back a little so you can see the arms up and overhead. Let's go for one more. And slowly release. Back to the Fitball squat. And that's the superset, folks. That's what it's meant by the superset. You do want to be careful with the ball that you don't put it too far back behind you because it will pop out. Okay. And squatting. Lift the toes inside the shoes. Pause at the peak. By the way, doing a squat this way with the Fitball is an excellent thing to do for yourself, so that for some people working on their balance, if they don't have strength, how are they going to have balance, right? This is an excellent way to gain strength for balance. And the more exercise accessories you work with, it's been shown to be excellent for cognition. One more. Easy on the lowering phase, no snapping away. And let's take out the band for the lat pull down. Out and up. Here we go. So I'm bringing the band up above toward my sternum, my breastbone. Watch the head. If you need to have your head neutral, make that adjustment, please. One more. And slowly release. Okay, first block down. Second block, we have deadlifts along with, I believe, it's the narrow grip chest press. So here I'm going to use 2 exercise loops. Placing those loops underneath. And all this stuff, folks, is like really rather inexpensive. Okay. And remember, it is a hip hinge. Don't worry, I'm going to turn direction in this next set. Pause at the peak, squeeze. Ooh, this so gets right in there. That's what I do love about working with the bands and the tubes. They seem to get right into the belly of the muscle. Be proud, lift the chest and take that subtle hip thrust. Pelvic tuck squeeze. Uno más. And easy as you step away. Okay. Now, here's the one that's going to go underneath the armpits. So, you know, I've been doing this stuff for decades, okay? So I'm kind of calloused all over the place. But if you're new to this, make sure you wear short sleeves. Don't go sleeveless for this. All right. Narrow grip, yes? And I'm going to lean back a little bit and crisscross. Let me get a little bit more band. I want a little bit more resistance. If the band snaps, I have enough. You see, I felt it. I felt it coming on. So I am prepared. So here we go. I just felt a little bit of it shifting. I've had it a long time. So now we'll take this one. Here we go. Yeah. Kathy and I were just talking about that too. Pause. Pause. Crisscross. One more. And release. Back to the deadlifts. Let me do a bit of an angle here for you. Okay. Athletic ready with the width of the feet. Here we go. So here's the hip hinge. Exhale, squeeze at the top. I'm also contracting and isometrically squeezing my quadricep muscles, the front thighs. Now, how do you do that? You want to think, I'm going to borrow from yoga, you want to think lifting your kneecaps, pulling them up. Two more. Woohoo. One more. Now, because this band is a little bit longer than the one that broke, which is kind of good, I want to show you another way you can do the chest press. You can do it with the wide grip as well. So let me face you here. The wide grip would mean it's out like this, all right? So you're pushing and pushing. You can crisscross also if you want. Couple more. Pause. And gently release it down. Okay, now we're going to come into our RDLs. Romanian deadlift. I'm using the monster cord. We're also going to work this with the military press, the one up and overhead. So let me show you something here. Because these things are so big, again, you're putting the cord underneath the arches of your sneakers, not the balls of your feet, because that stuff will slide right out, okay? So this is like, well, even if I'm to grab a lot of this, okay, and I'm talking a lot, it's really not much resistance for me, and it's got quite a bit of resistance unto itself. So what am I going to do with this? So I thought, you know what, I'm going to pull the bottom through now because there's just so much rubber between the sneaker, the mat, and the cord. It's just going to take me a little moment here, but I'm going to pull it through, make sure I'm not slack. Then I can grab a lot more of the cord down toward the base. Now from here, oh baby, here it is. Here's my full resistance that I'm looking for from that monster cord. Pardon me. Exhale up, pelvic tuck squeeze. That little subtle hip thrust. Do make sure toes are in the same line as each other. I had to remind myself to lift the toes inside the shoes. Whew. My butt's talking. One more. And easy. Watch yourself as you come out of this, especially if it's wound around your foot. Now, I'm going to grab my tube with the clip-on handles. And we just want to be careful again because these are hard handles. Those of you with the hand issues, please look for your softer handles. Okay, now I've got to make sure this is even on both sides with the resistance. I'm going to come up a little bit closer. Okay. Want to be careful here, right? Exhale up. Military, aka shoulder press, aka even overhead press. Now, this type of exercise would need clip-on extender handles for those 5'6" and above. Last one. slowly down. Again, it will snap away from you. Back to our monster cord with the Romanian deadlift. Always underneath the arch of the shoe. I'm going to feed it through. Come on, baby. Let's keep going. Yep, here we go. This side just needs a little adjustment. Here we go. Going all the way down. Okay. And up. Hip hinge, not a squat. Chest up, shoulders back, chin up. And you do notice that I am using gloves because you can start to sweat from the rubber of the bands and the tubes, and that will cause you to slip and slide. One more. And carefully untangling yourself. Back to military press. You know what? I'm going to show you here, for those of you, for that bent over rear delt, okay? Boom. All right, that's how you folks can do it if you're not doing that military press. So now I am going on to the tricep lift and push. Let me get my purple band for that. So elbows toward each other. Lift the elbows and push. Lift and push. Please be careful. Please avoid a forward head posture here. Lift and push. This is not to be confused with a tricep kickback and push. I am going after the posterior deltoid. I'm going after the upper back muscles, rhomboids. Also going after the tricep muscle. Whew. One more. This will do the job. And of course, the core is working. Whew. Okay, now grabbing my clip-on extender again. This is for the Arnold Curls. Okay. I want to make sure I'm even. Yeah, here we go. And pause. So when you have resistance here, there's a lot of work besides the biceps and the front deltoids in the forearms and the wrists. And these are osteoporotic sites. It is very important to keep them strong. One more. Wow. And easy on the release. Back to the tricep lift and press. We're on the last set of each of the last two exercises. Then we'll move into a little bit of a cool down. Okay, let's go this way for you. Elbows toward each other. We don't want to flail them away. And I want a little bit more band. So we're lifting the elbow and we push. Lift and push. So every time you extend the elbow joint, you are working the tricep muscle, but you're also working the posterior deltoid, the back of the shoulders. And because the scapulae are drawn in toward each other, the shoulder blades, we've got rhomboids, upper back muscles. Whew, last one. I don't know whose idea that was. All right, and now let's come to that Arnold curl. So what Arnold used to do for this is he created a gadget with a chain that he hung around his neck and a fiberglass board behind him that he put his elbows into, because you can only imagine how much weight he must have been lifting. He wasn't using a tube. Okay, curl. I'm just stepping a little closer to give you an idea. So it makes it more challenging than a bicep curl, a basic one, because you're not resting up against anything. And I'll explain that in a second. 2 more. Oh gosh. I'm going to go 2 more now. 1 more, inhale, exhale, pause, and slow on the release. So this is what I mean by the difference between this and a basic bicep curl. Here's your basic bicep curl, right? Well, my arms have an opportunity to rest along they're grazing the outer upper ribs with the inner upper arms. When you're out here with resistance, it's a whole different exercise. All right, so let's take a nice little cool down. Big shoulder rolls up, back, and down. Please avoid elbow pumps. It's not this. It's lifting, rolling slowly and big. Try to lift the shoulders to the earlobes. Now, let's stretch it out. Those biceps and forearms. So, what is this? This is wrist extension. So I want you folks with carpal tunnel to have straight arms and extend the middle finger out in front. Reach, reach, reach. And then turn the thumbs down. Inhale. Exhale. I'm going to interlock all 10 fingers behind you. So that's scapular retraction you're looking at. Shoulder blades drawn in. Now, for some people, they wind up doing this. And they think, wow, my arms are so far back. They're not. That means you're very tight at the front deltoid and the pectoral muscles of the shoulders. So what you folks can do is simply take one of your bands or tubes, bring it behind you, bring your hands a bit wider than your shoulders, and all you want to think about doing is gliding your knuckles along the floor to bring your arms back. And you'll get a beautiful opening at the front deltoid, and I should say the pectoral muscle. The pectoral muscle is out in front. And gently release. Now let's take something to offset that forward flexion, right? I was showing you that in the beginning. Excuse me. So I'm going to stand with the feet a bit wider than the hips. Now turn to the side. Placing the hands on the sacrum, the flat triangular plate at the low back. However, if I pull my hand out, you see that's wrist extension, right? So for carpal tunnel, you bring your hands down below the butt so that the wrists are straight. So I'm going to roll the shoulders back. And I'm going to bend the knees forward, and I'm starting to encourage sliding the sacrum down toward the heels. Now, does the sacrum slide? No, it's just the image that I use. Remember, TIA stroke. Don't worry about how deep of a back bend this is, folks. You take it to whatever works for you. But for TIA stroke, head neutral. For the rest of us, and if you want to go for it, roll the shoulders back, hips forward, elbows toward each other, and just let that head go. Now, for some, you might want to straighten the knees instead. That's still a spine extension. Inhale, head to neutral first. Exhale, come upright, and let's take a couple of more nice big shoulder rolls. This is when I would advise you that if you have more time to take about another 5 minutes for a proper cool down. You could always access the video on my YouTube channel, or just make sure maybe you walk around slowly just to make sure everything is calmed down for you. So that's what we have for you tonight here, Kathy, and hopefully people will pick up some tips here on what they can do when they're dealing with the holidays.
I think that was awesome, and thank you so much. I didn't bring up my bands, but I was doing some of them along with you too.
Great.
That Angela one, Whatever that is, I don't have it.
Oh. But you know what? You do. You know why? Because you did it with me one time. You went up against the kitchen cabinet.
That I can do, but like, so I was trying to put my arms like this, right? And see, I can't even get them.
This is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to do. I want you to step deeper into the kitchen. Step deeper. I want you to step further away. That's it. Thank you. Now I can see better.
Okay. All right. So this part, I'm not at a 90-degree angle.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay, now let me show you what I would do. I'm going to show you what I would do if I were you, all right? Because what's happening is you're a little bit locked, meaning your elbow doesn't want to go all the way, right? And a lot of it has to do with this, the front deltoid and the front high portion of your pectoralis muscle of the chest. So all you have to do is bring your arms wider.
Oh, wider?
Just wider.
Okay.
Just bring them out and you'll still be able to go lift and push.
Okay.
Look at this. How wide I am. Lift.
Okay, even wider. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
I can do.
Now you can. Exactly. That's all it is.
Okay. Because I went in to show Cheryl, I'm like, I can't even make my arm do that.
The Angela, I didn't know what you were talking about, but now I understand.
Right? It's your signature move. And I do a lot of computer work and stuff, so I am incredibly tight in my upper back, front and back, you know.
Yeah, that's where that whole sort of what they're calling today tech neck, and it's really forward head posture, right? And so that's what a lot of this is about, because everybody's going like this, right? So we got to get you up and draw the head back.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And thanks for the tip too. I thought maybe I'm not the only person. There were a couple of questions. TS was asking, a lot of the bands and ropes are in different strengths. Do you have a recommendation for them as far as strength of them? I know they have like, I forget how they make them, but you can get like ones for beginners and ones that are, you know, have more weight.
This is what I would do, all right? Because every manufacturer has a different color. That color represents the strength, but they are not doing it all the same any longer. Decades ago, they all used to do it. The very light one was yellow, and and then the more strength was red. Forget it, it's different today. So you do have to read the packaging, right? But I would always suggest that you buy a package of at least 3. And I would look at 4 feet and above as far as for the length of the band. Because you saw here, like, you know, I had a band that snapped out, and that band had already broken another time, and I was able to use it for a while, but that was it. So, you know, there was no more band I could use from it to save from it. But look for 4 5-foot bands and look for 3 in a package. And typically, I find that yellow, red, and green are coming in one package. Those are the deals. If you buy a single Dynaband, TheraBand, a resistance band, whatever you want to call that, it's a lot of money. I would say buy the package with at least the 3 bands in it.
Okay, great. And you guys, I mentioned this in the comments, but if you're not reading the chat and you're watching the replay, down below you can buy the equipment that Angela's showing you through Angela's link. So go check those out for sure.
Thank you. But I do want to say one thing, Kathy, about that. It's all 3 are a different resistance, just so TS knows. They're not the same resistance, right? It's light, medium, heavy is how they will typically mark them. It's the tubes. It's the tubes for resistance that will be marked. Yes. So here's the extender handle, right? And here's the tube that I was using. That's a 30-pound resistance tube. These are pretty accurate. But over time, as you wear them out, if you work out a lot, they'll lose some of that traction. So, which is why I brought out another one just in case. But so with the loops as well, they're marked light, medium, heavy, extra heavy, that kind of thing.
So if you were just starting out, so my initial reaction would be, what I'm going to do is what I just did tonight, is I worked along with you before you did the bands, right? Because if it gives me an idea of what my body can and can't do. Like some of the things like the deadlifts, I'm good with those. I can do those. So I would have felt really comfortable putting more weight on that. Right. With the one I was having trouble with, I certainly would either try to continue without weight for a little while or pick the easy one. Like Penny said, hers say easy, medium, and hard, and they're 12 inches. So how would you go about that? Am I thinking kind of
That's
around?
A loop. Wait a minute. Let me pull the handle out, okay?
Oh.
Yeah, these are handles that are separate. So is this what she's talking about? Because these are an exercise loop. So they're typically marked light, medium, heavy, extra heavy kind of thing. They're usually the bands now, all right? Mm-hmm. Even though everybody calls all of this stuff bands, they're really not, okay? So anything that's like a loop or a band, okay? And they're all put into the category of band. These are not marked with like 5 pounds, 10 pounds of resistance, nothing like that. These are typically marked easy, light, medium, heavy, extra heavy, whatever. It depends upon how many you have in your package. Now, the monster cord and any of the resistance, the exercise resistance tubes and the monster cord, these have, they will tell you what the resistance is in weight. So it might be a 10-pound tube, it might be a 15-pound tube, it could be a 40-pound monster cord, whatever. But that will be marked. But again, that is manufacturer dependent. So they're going to, per each manufacturer, tell you which this is. It correlates with. Unfortunately, it used to be across the board, but they stopped that stuff. So.
Oh, great. That was super helpful. So Penny was saying, yes, that is what she has, and she needs to get bands. And then Apple was also saying loop or
I
band.
Want to tell her, Kathy, may I just tell her that I have a video on my channel with the entire workout, showing the entire workout is all the loop.
Ooh, will you email me that, and I'll put it on the bottom in the description so people can go over there? Okay,
Absolutely.
Awesome. And Apple saying, laugh out loud, Penny, together we have a full gym. She has tubes and bands, and she has the tubes and loops, but no bands. Right? And I don't even know what. I think I don't think we have the loop, but I think we have tubes and bands. So I'm going to double check that. We have weights too. Right. Okay, so going back to, here we go. TS is also asking, for the ropes, do you test them like the bands for when they get old? So are you testing them before you?
What are the ropes? Does TS mean the tubes? The tubes?
I think the tubes. I would.
So I can tell you what my experience of that has been. Let me just see which one I could show you. Okay. These are the ones that are the preset handles. These are not adjustable. They're not extender, okay? But when they get older, and you don't know until really you're using it, right? That's what happened to me here today. That was it. It snapped, okay? But I felt it. I felt something shift within the latex. And it was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to hang in there or not. What will happen with these is as they just get older, oftentimes they snap out, they snap away right here. So it's by the handle, they break off right there. So the other thing to show you, which is why I had an extra one out, because I think it's going to happen soon. Now, remember, I beat the crap out of this stuff. So with me, it's not going to be a huge shelf life, but with the extender handles, okay? For some reason, these tubes tend to start like a little bit of fraying. And that's when you're going to notice that, hey, I might need to invest in a new one. All right. So that's the kind of thing that you can look for. I hope that helps.
I think that helps a lot. And because one of the things that can be kind of confusing in starting this is that you've got equipment, you've got names you have to learn about equipment, you have the exercise names and the muscle names. And I mean, I know it would be great if we remember all of them, but if we remember some of them, I think.
Right. Well, here's the thing, and this is how I feel about this when I teach. I don't condescend to my students. I've seen instructors, it's like, speak to them. They're smart. Don't worry if they don't know the muscle yet, but over time, they'll get used to the name of the muscle because, you're smart. And I oftentimes just find that instructors really, I don't like instructors who will talk to a woman who's in her 80s trying to work out and call her sweetheart and stuff like that. It's like, no, I'm going to talk to her straight up, and I'm going to tell her the names of the muscles, the names of the exercise, the names of the equipment. And over time, you'll get comfortable with it. And you know how you get comfortable with it? By doing it. By not being afraid to pick the thing up and just begin to work with it. Just start.
Right. And you can always, if it's an exercise that you don't feel comfortable with or it doesn't feel good, you can stop and you can find someone to ask questions to too. And like I'm training Cheryl on some of the work that I do because she's coming on to work with me. And so a lot of times she'll go, wait, let me get my notebook. And I'm like, writing all this down isn't going to help. This is the first time I'm showing you what it looks like, what we're trying to do. So a lot of times I'll do that. So like I'm the person, so I get afraid and I haven't rode a bike in a while, so I have to do this again. So if I don't ride a bike for 10 years, it's starting new for me and it makes me nervous and scared. And I literally will walk the bike down the route that I plan on going a few times, feel where the bumps are. Because
that's right.
I know it may seem funny to some of you guys, especially when I'm like, oh, let's just make this and see if it turns out or not. Like that I'm very confident in, but I'm also very clear about the things that are harder for me and then trying to give myself, what I need to make that happen. And
this is why it's important with the exercise, Kathy. I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you. This is why with the exercise, that it's very important. If this is really new or bringing up bad memories from the past, okay, that you begin without a thing in your hands. Just explore the movement. The more confident you become in the movement itself, then you might turn around and say, I might want to try the tube for that bicep curl.
Exactly. And I that's one of the things I really like about this. And since I know we have people on here that are new to things, as well as people who've been doing it for a while, I just want to make sure everybody understands that Angela is incredibly thorough, but that doesn't mean there's a quiz later, right? You get to watch this as many times as you want and have her walk you through step by step. Angela's like, I'm foiled. There was going to be a quiz and now I can't do it. But I think we kind of seize up sometimes like, oh, it's a lot of information, but it's okay to let some of it just flow through.
Yeah, I just think that it's important to understand that not to be afraid of learning about the body, not to be afraid to learn about the movement that complements your body. This whole approach is really about give yourself the grace to figure out what works for you. The thing here too is when I teach the whole thing without the equipment, it's a great warm-up for everybody because we're getting the blood moving into the joints, into the muscles. It's not like, because some people are like, well, I like it a little bit harder. Right. Go ahead. You'll see that there's a way to build it up. I'm not messing around when I work out with you guys. I'm working out. I'm not pretending, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, but you have to be respectful of all levels, but certainly to yourself. I do find people are oftentimes really judge themselves and have a hard time getting past a perspective of, oh, I'm just so weak. Okay, now we have to reframe that and say, how am I going to approach this getting stronger without getting hurt?
And I love that. Also, I wanted to say too, like, we know you weren't playing around. Mona was like, I put this up earlier. I'm loving Angela's arms. Like, we were seeing your muscles work. I have no, and also Ra Chef Yen was working out with you. She was, instead of doing her walk.
Yay, how wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you so much. That's exciting. I really appreciate that, Raw Chef. I really appreciate it.
She's awesome. Now,
Yes, she's awesome.
Penny says she just ordered the bands and they're coming tomorrow. Yay. And Penny, I did email you about the question you had about the casserole you're going to make later tonight.
And Penny, can I tell you, you can reach me by way of the contact form on my website. You feel free to send me any questions, okay? And it's just, you know, it's the contact tab at boomerandbeyondwellness.com. Apple does something.
Oh, and Apple was just a high five. I ordered a Fitball. She was talking earlier. She said usually she uses a phone, but she really could understand like the benefits of having the ball that you were using.
Oh yeah, that thing becomes a whole nother tool for a lot of stuff. It's really great.
And Stacy has some really good information. She says, keeping a curious mind when learning something new. And we need to remember how we learn new things as a child. And I think it is really important. It's hard sometimes to go back because you're just like, I'm learning, and you don't have any judgments when you're a child. And as an adult, we tend to have a lot of judgments on anything. Like, seriously, if I'm having a bad day, I can put a judgment on, I need a drink of water. Like, you know, adults are, you know, sometimes we just need to shake it all out like a dog. And sometimes I literally will just shake it all out, try to start again. That's one thing my dog taught me. And T.S. was saying, this is, I think, is our last question. I stopped using all of those bands. She said all of those, and I think she means bands and such, the stretchy things, because they've snapped. And she just uses assorted weights.
Okay, that'll work too. The thing about the bands, I use mine to the bitter end. And that was the bitter end for that band, all right? Now, that band that broke was already over 3 years old. So, and you know, I've done a lot of presentations with the bands and the tubes. And that's why tonight I told Kathy beforehand, I'm going to have extras out because I think some stuff's going to happen here. And I just use it to the end. So yes, they will have a finite amount of time, but how you store them, where you store them is a really important factor. And for me, living in South Florida, it's always warm or humid. You know what I mean? That's a pretty good shelf life on the bands. But yes, they're not going to last forever. I showed you tips on how you can make them last longer, though. And you know I'm all about the weights, too. So, you know, I get it. Whatever lights your fire that you feel that you're going to use the most. For some people, it's also about certain accessories are less intimidating. So I hope that helps.
Oh, I think that helps a lot. And I like the way you put some are less intimidating, because I think in a gym situation, I'm more intimidated by weights, but at home, I'm not intimidated by them. And I just thought I'd share that strange feeling for anybody else.
The whole setup there is that way. Now, I'm very used to that setup, right? Obviously. But I always find, and I kind of get loud when I work out on my own, but when in the gym setting, it's those loud yellers, you know, and it's usually, I love my male trainers and stuff, but it's usually them, and they're, "Whoa," you know. So if you're new to the setting, this is going to be intimidating, but just understand that a lot of that stuff is just they're they're lifting heavy weight and they've got to let it out. There is no way that, you know, me, you saw me with this one with the band. I'm like, oh, you know, and it was definitely challenging. So you can only imagine with the really heavy weights what those guys go through. But if you're new to the setting, I can understand where you'd be like, yeah, I'm leaving right now. You know? So I'm walking out.
Well, thank you so much for giving us some good information, another good workout that we can do in our own home or in our hotel room. So one of the reasons we did the bands and things, packable things.
Yes.
So, and yes, that doesn't mean you couldn't do the same workout with weights as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a way to do every one of these with weights as well, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Stacy says thank you, Angela and Kathy, and Penny says thanks to both of you. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving your time and energy to the community. And hopefully everyone will just feel a little better about doing some movement at home and getting started and feeling less intimidated by everything. Do you have any parting words?
Yeah, I want people to feel free to reach out to me with ideas and suggestions of some stuff they might like to see in the future. I have more ideas for you folks, for sure.
Okay,
But
awesome.
I'm always open to hearing your suggestions, and it might not mean I'll be able to get to it right away, but trust me, I slot these things. I slot them, you know. And I definitely, like, I'm going, all right, you got to start thinking about that, you know. So I appreciate it. Anything that you're looking for, let me know.
Okay, awesome. And I'll pass on anything anybody tells me, and we'll look forward to
Great.
working out with you again next month. But don't forget, so we already have one from Angela, and then we have this one. Those are going to be on the YouTube channel, both mine and hers, and you can just come back and work out to them, right? These are going to be here for you to use over and over again. So I want you to utilize that.
Yes, please. And you know, it's always, I think it's very important that when somebody sits down to watch my videos, they need to watch them fully through the first time. And then after that, because not all of the modifications are going to apply to you, right? Individually. You can go to the replay and you can go to the timestamp that's there where the workout actually begins. So there's probably like 20 minutes of conversation, especially me going at it, that you can bypass to go to the beginning of the workout. But when somebody's brand new to my stuff, I'm like, you need to watch it because I need to make sure that you get that information.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, and everybody, Angela has a YouTube channel. You can find all that information down below. And be sure to follow her, get on her newsletter, Boomer and Beyond Wellness. And we will see her very soon, both in the chat and exercising with us again. Yay! Okay.
Well, you're on later tonight, right? I'm going to see you later tonight.
You're going to see Cheryl. It depends if Cheryl talks me into coming on with us. Yeah, and you guys, Cheryl is going to be live at 9 p.m. today. Those of you who are hanging out with us, you can set some of your goals, be them movement or eating or whatever. And I suspect Cheryl might be talking a little about health insurance because she was not happy about it earlier. So we'll see what happens. All right, guys, thank you so much, and we will see you really, really soon. All right, bye.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Cheryl.